first guest to the podcast is Mr. Alexey Katko. Alexey, thank you so much for coming to talk with me today. It really means a lot to me because I regard you as a figure in my life that's been one of my biggest leaders, and especially in situations where it would be so easy to judge, it would be so easy to write me off or count me off and say that no, this person has gone slightly insane. This person doesn't know what they're doing with their life. But you have even in situations where maybe there's a little bit of judgment there, you have always erred on the side of encouragement, and you came across the naming convention of was it chief encouragement officers?
Yeah. Yes.
Through the experiences that you have had with encouragement. And so I wanted to talk to you today from that perspective. And I'll come back to the encouragement mission you are leading in yourself and with your group of connections. But first of all, I wanted to get to what you're currently doing. So could you tell people a little bit, however much is appropriate for you, about what is your job, what are you currently doing, and how did you end up in this position in the first place?
Okay, great question. So currently right now, it's actually coming, I have 2 more weeks in this position. I'm working at the capital, the state capital, for a representative from Hawaii Island. Most people know it as the Big Island, but the name of the island is actually Hawaii Island. And he is from the Puna district. And I used to be on the campaign race, and I learned this word about Puna. People from Puna, they call them Punatics. For a good reason. People there have a hard time agreeing on where the sky is, kind of joke, is the running joke. But we represent that group of people to the state of Hawaii. So his name is Representative or Speaker Ilagan. So we met shortly after I moved to the Big Island. We stayed in touch. And this year, or the end of last year, just happened to cross paths again at an event, and his girlfriend was there. And so both of them were like, yeah, we're looking for somebody to do office work session. Session means you work the period of where they actually make the laws in Hawaii, starts in January and ends in the beginning of May, beginning from 18th of January to May 5th this year. And so because it gets so much work, they hire people just for that time. And so I had no intention of going there. As a matter of fact, I visited Oahu meeting in December, and they said, no way on this pale blue dot will I ever go to Oahu. And I've never lived there. And or never work at the Capitol building, because I did all those things while I was in Oahu to meet some people. And also went to the Rep Ilgan. And they tried to look for people. I said a bunch of people, nothing was working out. And come December 30th, I'm talking with them on the phone. They're like, we still can't find anybody. And the voice in my head is louder and louder. You should do it. You should do it. You should do it. And I was like, heck no. Heck no. Then got one out, and I called them like, hey guys, on the 30th, give me 24 hours, and I'll decide if I'm going to do it or not. And so the 31st, I called and decided that I'm doing. I talked to a few of the key people in my life, and the decision was everybody's like, dude, go for it. It was only 4 months. So I came here, gave myself 24 hours to decide, pack up, and leave. And so the 31st, I made the decision, and on the 3rd of January, so 31st of December, 3rd of January, 7 a.m., I was already at work, working at the state capitol. So right now, it's almost the end. I got 2 weeks left, and I'll be honest, now I'm finally making friends, connecting with people, and it's coming to the touchdown. It's been a fun ride. What politics or what making laws you learn in school, ladies and gentlemen, is not. How laws are actually made.
Yeah. And how do you think first to your previous opinion before you got into this place?
My opinion before was I had no freaking clue. I was than very basic knowledge. Now, what I know is the fact is, it's a bunch of humans who are no smarter and no more better, nicer, kinder, or even you. People who just wanted to make a difference. They know zero about history, zero about policy making, yet they make it to a powerful position. And then once you're in the position, you have to play this role of, the only way I can put it is, you have to collect brownie points from the other representatives. Because if you want your business to pass through, you got to be a good friend with people. So you make alliances, and those alliances matter more than the bill itself.
Right.
And it's just like human nature. That's how it works. That's how it always worked. It's just the basis of trust. Who do you trust more or less? Will they have your back or not? And then everybody votes based on that.
Yeah.
Then, yeah.
Any experience in the political world, but for me, it sounds like, listening to your feedback of what you've experienced in these short months, it sounds very, very similar to what I have experienced myself, and I know many of my friends and colleagues in the corporate world. So, like, would it be fair to say that when you end up doing, into mid-level position even in the political world, then it is like corporate world, but corporation is a government. Is that how it kind of relates for you?
I would totally agree with that. It's like another word for politics is just relationships.
Yeah.
That's all it is. To get anything done with humans is trust. You have to build trust, and then you can do something. So corporate politics, it's all the same exact thing using different words. What you're using, the difference I would say is one is using money, the other one is using private money, and what the politicking is the exact same from family, friends to businesses to nations.
So after all of this experience that you've now had, and also working on the campaign on the Big Island, do you feel more hopeful, or do you feel more that people are people everywhere and mistakes happen, and this is how some of these systems are currently crumbling? Like,
Well,
where and on that rainbow, that scale, or we're gonna be.
Well, what I learned here and saw here is what I've learned in books of how nations collapse. And I'm very opinionated, and so let's be very straight. I'm going to be very straight about this. Things that I believe in, I'm very opinionated on. It's certain, but very few things are black and white in reality. When politicians, their cohorts get to a place of power and the black and white thinkers, that's when ideas come to fruition. When people get to a place of power and can't make a clear definition, that's when stupid rules are made. Like this year, they came out with a bill that was just, pardon my language, but just genuinely retarded. Like, it's so stupid that I had to walk out of the office when they were having the hearings for it, because I'm like, if I was in their place and I was watching myself, I would call myself a genuinely mentally retarded human being because of the reasoning. You're just like, what? So it's
details on what the bill was about, or not?
Well, you know how they say you can't get married before 16 because if you have sex before 16, it's called rape. But then they legalized abortion for 14-year-olds to not. So the legalizing part of it was that a 14-year-old doesn't have to tell her parents that she's getting an abortion. And then the next question during the law process is, wait a second, does that mean legalizing sex for a 14-year-old? And then all the people who were for it all of a sudden stopped. They're like, that's a good question. Huh. So it's like these like, you guys have, so like, law to have passed is this one. It all gets to this one person saying yes or no, but they'll say yes or no if the people, the committees are positive towards it. But these guys want this guy or gal to be to get brownie points from them. They want to make sure they're all happy. So the people in the committee, I learned there's a bunch of people who said yes to that bill went directly against their own conscience. And so one rule in the halls of the Capitol is keep your mouth shut. Don't talk about anything in the bathrooms and halls because people will hear you and information will get to where it needs to go eventually. Like keep your mouth shut. People don't, and so you hear everybody talking, and it's like it's stupefying how just to be on somebody's good side, you will vote against your conscience, and that's when I realized there is no long term. When you break the family unit down one little piece at a time, the nation will come apart eventually. So do I have hope? Hopefully for the rest of my life. It's slowly degrading, just like any nation. Its laws are becoming more just. It's breaking up you break up the family unit, you break up the culture, you break society up, and you get what you get from that. Rules, no laws, no regulations. Everybody can do whatever they want. Nobody gets punished for anything. And look at California. Nobody wants to be there.
Yeah, I feel like people still want to be there, and they're still going there also. Maybe there is some sort of a hopeful way of new Californians moving in and seeing an opportunity when real estate prices start slowly shifting, that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of heavy question marks.
Yeah, that's the thing. When it comes to county level, it's a different ball game because on the county level, rules you get to only make is only going to affect your county, not the state. So it doesn't work the other way around. But with the state, it affects every single county, and now you're telling people the type of rules are totally different. County is more like abandoned cars. What do you do with an abandoned car? It's like X, Y, Z. But they're not going to tell you how the societal rules and laws. Those are different. Those make or break society or create society. It's like different worlds.
Yeah, and I guess that leads us quite nicely to your other projects. You have so much going on. Do you want to pick a couple of your entrepreneurial projects that you're working on the side? Or more for building the future, hopeful in your work stream?
Yeah. I moved to Hawaii Island in 2019. I didn't even know that they grow chocolate or coffee here. As a matter of fact, the first farmer that showed me, I laughed in his face, like a genuine good laugh, until I realized he was serious. Because he was laughing. Yeah. It was one of those movie moments where he's like, me, and I'm just like, are you for real? So,
or the
like,
one that makes chocolate?
Yeah, like, wait, you don't order it somewhere? He's like, we grow it literally like 5 minutes up the road. So,
Willy Wonka, the real Willy Wonka, right?
Yes, exactly. And I went there. I slowly started getting familiarized and with the chocolate world, how to grow, how to make it from start to finish, the coffee world as well. I got a part-time on gigs with both of these businesses. And one of the things that I learned is that there is products that farmers grow. There's what I call the stranded farm produce, which is stuff that is too ugly or is, like, say, for example, if a baker makes the bread, the ends get thrown away. Or modern day, you get a nice white piece of bread and kids don't like the outside. The inside.
It's
What?
American kids don't like the sides.
So it's what do you do with that? Like, there has been so much energy into creating this thing. You gotta do something. And so I found out that in Hawaii, we have, at this point, I'm estimating, I definitely know for sure we have already 110,000 pounds that I've tracked down personally, that we farmers just, it's damaged coffee in some way, either by nature, bugs, or by physically their damaged, broken beans. And so because of that, it has a unique flavor. Nobody's really figured out how to do a good drink of it. Neither have I. I successfully failed for 3 years. Finally, I mixed the chocolate world with the coffee world and created these espresso melts. I call them the Cocoa espresso melts. And Cocoa is an acronym that stands for keep on keeping on. So for me, it's creating a brand, a food brand, that specific food that has been, it's stranded farm produce. Like, what do you do with it? And you need to put some creativity into it to make something out of it, for it to be wanted again. So for me, that on the sidelines, it's like working with the purple potato industry. If coffee has 200,000 pounds a year that goes to waste, which is farmers $6 million a year, purple potato industry is 5 to 10 million pounds of potatoes a year that goes to waste. So it's like slowly working with schools. A school, one of the biggest schools right now, they just started working with landowners. After like a year, things are slowly starting to come together. When I come back to from Oahu, I'm going to be getting back to it, to creating the first vegetarian spam from the purple potato. So we've already tested it, and we're about 75% there. So when I get back, we're gonna test the with different spices and herbs to get it as close to the spam. We got the texture and we got the look and the color down, and it's all accidental.
Could you explain really quickly for people that are not from Hawaii and never visited Hawaii, what is a purple potato? And for the non-American listeners, what is spam?
Well, let me say spam. I'll start with spam first. In World War II, they had to figure out how to make, in a nutshell, they had to figure out how to use the offcuts of meats, different kinds of meats, and there was a huge need for some kind of proteins. And so they took a bunch of stuff, smashed it together, boiled it, bada bam, bada boom, you got spam, which is just a mixture of everything and anything with a bunch of salt. And it's like it's a meat that's been mushed together and then boiled. So it's like imagine you take a bottle, put that meat in there, and then take that bottle and put it in boiling water, and it like boils the meat inside, and it's like kind of rubbery-esque, or like salami, something like that. So you just cut into slices and you cook it. You can eat it raw because it's already boiled. So it's like a meat. It's a meat substitute, but made out of like cutoffs.
Meat product.
Yeah, it's a meat product, but it's very easy to chew. And so that was very big on island nations. So Hawaii is big during World War II. It's easy to ship and bring out.
And lasts.
Yeah, and it lasts forever. Well, forever. But it's island nations, specific to island nations. It was big during World War II when it really kicked off. And after that, now it's just like part of culture. Sweet purple potatoes, they're called Okinawan sweet purple potatoes. It's a surprise, it's a purple potato. On the outside, it's like light brown, but when you cut it, it's purple. And so when you boil it and you eat it, it's super sweet, like way sweet.
More like a fruit potato, when you taste it after boiling.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, it's very close to like orange sweet purple potato. It's just a purple sweet potato. It's like the highest antioxidant count of anything on planet Earth. The ones that go in Hawaii have a very unique flavor to them, so it's pretty popular around the world. And so yeah, that's what purple potatoes are. So one day, just like any other invention, I was fooling around with this purple potato with different kinds processing, and then found out that it actually, when you put it through a certain process, using any chemicals, it can change colors. So then I was like, let me. So that's where that Spam idea came.
Right.
So yeah, that's purple. That's what purple potato and Spam is, and hey, maybe it'll work out. We'll see. Then we can use that extra 5 to 10 pounds of potatoes.
So what do you think, like, ultimately, when you think of these ventures that you're getting yourself into, and trying to figure out how these industries work, and all of this, and it being about food, which means nutrition and nourishing others, and all of these symbolic things inside of that thought, what do you think your ultimate need comes from to save these farm misfits? And why is it about more food than people? It's about people, and the food is a way to get there.
Yeah, journey
Is
of life.
it or
That's a great question. So from every human being, you start really listening to. I believe that every one of us. It's not a belief. It's a fact of life that every one of us grow up in a very unique. We experience certain things, and then eventually, like, oh, the thing that we had the greatest challenge with is the thing, and if we overcome it, is the very thing we want to turn around and help people with or empower people. Being child number 5 of 6 is something. What I experienced in life is you're always just kind of to live your own life, and that's. I talked with my parents many years ago, and they said after child number 3, they just kind of let us live our life, because statistically speaking, you can only have a close relationship with 6 people in your life. And if you're a parent, your spouse is one, and the next your spouse, the next 3 kids, and then you only have 2 friends left to have in your life. So 3 kids, or any more than 3 kids, they kind of get left alone. And so that's how I had to figure life on my own. And every time you wanted to give up, when people would encourage you, it made a big difference. And so from that, I would say that was my thing, is to figure out how do you encourage people. And in 2013, 2008, I had an experience where my brother-in-law took his own life. That took me 4 years to work through. Just as I worked through that, I got this another experience where within 5 minutes of each other, these 2 phone calls, I find out that 2 families commit suicide. So instead of wanting to go down a black hole again, emotional angst, I said, what am I going to do? So what that led me to do is I decided to write 1,000 letters of random encouragement. Just a gut feeling, and I got scared because first 10 letters, or first 3 letters, took me 4 hours a piece to write, and I was like, there's no way in this world I'm going to write 1,000 letters within a year. But the more I did it, the more I persisted. They got, like, the time it took me to write the letters got shorter and shorter. So the reason I share that is because when I moved to Hawaii and I started working with coffee farmers and on chocolate farms, I realized that they had these issues, these misfits, or these things that they just need a little encouragement, these products, to make something great out of it. My first product I tried was this thing called cacao tea. Farmers, they could barely sell the thing for $14 a pound. It's a byproduct of making chocolate.
right?
And I told the farmer I was working for, like, if you take it and you powder it, you can get, like, instead of $14, $200. He's like, no way. I did it, and then we started selling it. I worked there for about half a year, and we sold about $200 worth of that product every single week, and he still couldn't believe it, that people were buying it. Neither could I. People loved it. So that showed me that a little creativity, a little encouragement. So I love encouragement. It's been at this point, these letters happened 10 years ago. I had a show where I read these letters every night for 100 days in a row, sent these letters out all over the world to 30 different countries and all over the states. And people came back with stories that absolutely changed their life. Where certain people their business, their dream business, and it took off. People finally went to degrees that they never wanted to. And I'm talking about people from Africa to Europe to Middle East to
Right.
Australia, like all over the world. And you're like, wow, a little encouragement does go a far way. And food, when I learned that we have 5 to 10 million pounds a year of sweet purple potatoes that goes to waste, I'm like, that's it. I got to do something about it. So now to bring it all together, I started encouraging coffee and called it encouraging coffee because it brings it together. It takes a lot of experiences to figure out what are you going to do before you need away. So for me, I created encouraging coffee specifically to share the story of trash to treasure. Because it's not about the food, but it's about the food and how you tie into it. So it's taking products that were trash, creating it into treasure is exactly the journey you are taking, is to encourage you take that next step, whatever it is. It's gonna, if it's painful, go for it. Go over that hump, work through it. Don't just sit back and give up, which is more comfortable but more miserable. It's painful to go through it, but more rewarding in the end. And so food products, the food company that I've started, encouraging coffee, beginning with coffee, is to then, my ultimate goal is to go out and to be the food inspirational speaker, to tie taste to encouragement.
That's beautiful. What do you think, like, how this plays out? This sort of thinking that a lot of people of our generation, so we're talking about people in their 20s, 30s, early 40s, in this area of life, currently, a lot of people and through the people, a lot of companies are getting or trying to get involved in different types of encouragement. And it's right now spanning in America all across, from racial topic to women's movements to trans movements to any of other LGBTQ type of topic, and everything in between. So it seems like there's a lot of people to encourage other people to see the world in a specific way, or get through their day coming from a specific perspective. So how do you feel about how the world at large is going about this, and um, it all stemming from a point that everybody wants to encourage somebody? Is it really about encouraging themselves? Is it making money on it? Is it, like, how do you see that context around yourself? Because I have many thoughts on it. Sometimes feel like I'm putting myself into an echo chamber by following like very specific content creators and very specific outlets that might be echoing the same message over and over. Maybe I'm not getting out of my own cycle. I don't know anymore at this point with how fast the technology is moving and news is moving and information is moving. So like, where do you stand on that?
When it comes to companies, why they do what they do, I can't speak for them. You do have to market your products if you want to stay alive. So it's
super specific, but to take it super specific. So from like last 2 weeks, for example, we had this major scandal with Mulvaney and the brand Bud Light. Are you in the loop on that one?
yeah.
Okay. We received a promotional can, right? It was just one can ever made, as far as we know, that was sent with her face to her and asked for a promotion back if she liked it. And she somehow felt touched by it. That was the perspective she was putting out there was that it meant something to her, that it was done. And Dylan Mulvaney is representing very, very vocally the transgender women's voice. And so she put the product out there. She created this controversy of, is she the right person to speak for that brand? And all of that. And I don't really I don't know much about her. I'm not a follower. I'm just reading it peripherally through news. But I'm more interested on the business side of it, that what this situation created for Anheuser-Busch, that owns the Bud Light brand, now having to restructure kind of some of their management at the top and their marketing director and all of this. Is this stuff real? Do you think there's still a seed or hint of encouragement left in what is happening there, or is that purely for money and show, and growth, the brand.
I think what you're referring to, I'm getting, no, if I'm hearing the question right, and if I'm answering it, let me know. Businesses will always try to do influencer marketing. That's one of the things that was coming to my mind. Like, do I want to do influencer marketing or not? So when it comes to big, large businesses, they are trying to find different avenues, different routes, different ways to get their product out there. There is ways to do it where you partner with people, and then there's ways you can do it that's going to look political. So they might have not wanted to make it a political state. Like, that's the climate we're in. It's this push to transgender ideology and for it to be just out there in your face. But in their case, they tried to partner with somebody in some way, and it backfired. I think the energy is obvious. Like, the reason they wanted to do it is their reasoning. For us to even, I don't think it's for us to judge why they. I think I'm a firm believer in the result and the energy that it actually creates, and you can see the results and the energy needed for itself. Because most people who are, or apparently there's enough people who drink Bud Light that stop drinking it for a little bit, that made a big difference. And for them, it's like an oops, let's put a commercial of horses back on and say it's all good. But when you're trying to affect society, you get what you get. You get what society tells you, and it's just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that kind of thing, or maybe I should have. So if they stuck to their guns, they would have doubled down on it actually, because they said they want younger people.
That's
so
what I.
because they stepped back from it and said, oh, check out our crazy awesome Clondale or whatever they call horses. Let's go back to horsing around with our commercials. All of a sudden, you didn't give a care. For you, it was just like that shows maybe we're just doing it again. I'm not going to be well. If I were to be opinionated and judgmental, I'd say it was just for money, because they did not stick to their guns. Because they said, oh, okay, let's go back to the horses. We're losing too much money. Okay, you show who you are by your actions, not by what you say.
Right.
So in this case, money kind of went out.
Sorry.
Just money went out. They got hurt in their pocket. They're like, oh, that's not our customer base. Customer base doesn't want to hear about gender ideologies. They just want to drink darn beer.
Right.
So encouragement, I define encouragement as in lending your belief into somebody until theirs is strong enough. So my type of encouragement is, hey, stuff is, if things are, which they will be eventually, just consider keep on going. Okay, in a nutshell, that is all I know I have to do this lifetime, and figure out how to bring it out there for people to randomly get a packet of something that says, hey, somebody's thinking about you, and they just want to tell you, just keep on going. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. And if it is, like, try 2 more things and 1 more just in case. As my good friend would say in Hilo, he's an elderly gentleman. His saying is, find 2 answers for every problem and 1 more just in case. For me, it's like encouragement. It's like we all want to give up. Whatever you're doing, it's like, hey, it's probably and it hurts, and you want to give up. Just consider, try again. That's what I'm saying, and what I'm doing. And I'm business. I have not succeeded thus far in doing it until I created the chocolate, where it's like, okay, how do I take who I am with what I can do, and that the product aligns with this thing, and then bring it out to the world so that people can share it. It's another tool for somebody like you to send to somebody like anywhere in the world to just make them feel encouraged in a very generalized way, and then it's not in a specific, hey, go support this group or go support that group. If that's what you want to do it. I'm not in it. I'm not between your belief structures, because I'm a firm believer that if there's an A and there's another belief B, it is the best thing for human nature for them to actually combat each other and not to delete the other one out. You need that back and forth. So encouragement, when you're trying to get on somebody's side, on somebody's better side, big question mark. Big question mark.
Yeah, right. That's the question of where does helping become hurting?
Yeah.
Where does that line go? And who feels how touched by a specific topic?
Yeah, business is business. Don't get into politics and changing policies. You're a business to sell a product. So make your product and sell a product. I don't know, my theory in business. But who am I to talk about business? I'm starting my 50 millionth business to see if this one goes. And to answer your last question about making money out of these things that we're doing, I've been doing this for years and years and years, and sending letters out, spending my time, investing my time, and it is because of the encouragement of other people saying, hey, you should consider taking this bigger. And in the world we live, we do have to learn how to be able to take the energy. When you say money, people are just all, yeah, money, yeah. But that is just another form of anything else as energy, and you have to learn how to let it pass through you. If I want to grow this encouragement, I can only make so much money to push it, or I can create a business around it, and be proud of it, and share it with the world, and have a good life doing it. I think we all are able to do that, but the journey there is very, at least to me, it's challenging to figure it all out in our own unique way.
It definitely is challenging, and it has a lot of curves and a lot of turns and a lot of dead ends and reversing and going it again and like finding it in yourself to keep going. Going. Yeah. Keeping on. I wanted to say. Yeah.
Coco.
Coco. So, thinking about your business and thinking about something that you have said to me often multiple times through the time that we've known each other, you have mentioned that you don't follow mainstream news at all, that you stopped watching news at some point and you stopped reading news. And so if you want to get your business out there and do your promotions, and also if you ever want to get like a general overview of the world, what's happening, where do you go? Because the popular opinion that I've heard from a lot of 20, 30-year-olds at the moment, and myself included, we're being very, very selective about where we're getting our news from. And I would say in my circle, at least 90% of us are not following mainstream news anymore for years. So like, when was the process happen for you, first of all? How did you go about it, and where do you stand on it today, and how does that impact your brand new businesses that you're creating?
I used to be huge on news, and it's very easy to get into the tin hat world very quickly on either end. And by tin hat, I mean you get into this loop where you only hear what you want to hear and it proves what you want to prove. You definitely got to watch out for the energy you want to be around. It's very easy to just get into a loop and be mad and angry at life, which is very easy to get angry at someone or something and then just blame them for everything.
Right.
We learned anything from World War II and the power that were there. It's the true ugliness of blaming a people group for something falsely and then trying to annihilate them. So news, that's what it does. Look at the news today. The more people, if it's not, before you had this nation against nation, then the years progressed, you got this men against women, then you got white against black, then you got this against that. Now it's like transgenders against, it's like it's getting to the point where it's like it's transgender versus the gay community. They're like against each other. They're like, get the hell out of our organization. Like, you're your own world. We disagree with you guys. Way too much for us. And it's like all this fighting, but it's created based off of what we're listening to. Like, I stopped listening to it, and all of a sudden people around me are cool, nice. I don't care if you believe if you believe that you're the south end of a northward headed donkey with your XYZ GY whatever. Like, for you. I don't care what you believe in that sense. Let's figure out how to work together and create a decent world to live in and work together on. Like, when people start fighting against each other, people start fighting against each other when they're creating enemies at each other. I see this at the Capitol. Very, very, like it's amazing. When you demonize one group over the other, you just become a demon yourself.
Mm.
I refuse to talk to a few people, even be around them, because they are like that. And when you hear them talking about these other groups, and I'm not talking about Democrats versus Republicans only. Republicans against each other, Democrats against Democrats within, because somebody might be a little more leaning this way or that way. They demonize each other, and it's just like, it's like parasites eating themselves out of existence. You see negativity. So news, it's like, I know what I want to create. I know the kind of world I want to create. I'm not going to change the world. My job is not to change the world. My job is to change my world for me, and then leave that influence, what influence impact I want to leave. And so I can't do anything about this or that or wars around the world, because I'm not at that level, and nor do I see myself ever getting into politics to make an impact. So I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to fill myself with it, with this energy. Take away the word news and just insert the word energy. It's like, you want positive or negative energy in your life? It's not to stick your head in the sand. It's like, how far do you be aware of it or not? It's like, well, that's a great question. I don't know how to answer it. But right now, I know what I need to do, so I'm going to focus on that. Somebody brings up news, I'll be like, great, cool story. Oh, very, very basic. You just have to start feeling this energy meter just going down. And then once at a certain level, it shifts into the negative, we consider emotions of anger, disgust. Those are the two. It's like, by the time you get into anger and disgust, like, oh boy, like, you got to delete these things out of your life. And it doesn't even have to be news. It has to be the echo chamber, like you said, that word of on your social medias. Who do you stop watching, following, or learning from? So it's like, the news, if you're into changing the world, go for it. But stop demonizing each other. That's why I'm working on a movement with one of my Kapuna friends, and it's slowly, like, but surely starting to take off amongst leadership. Start thinking broader picture. Like, stop. Let's consider working together, guys. And here's how. And I've been practicing it myself with people I absolutely disagree with. And golly, can I say it's fun being able to actually humanize people that ideologies demonize them. Sit down for a cup of coffee, you're like, hey, you're an awesome human being. We might disagree on this. Let's agree to disagree, but let's work together to a better future.
Right. That makes sense. I like to think about it as energy and which energy you're associating with. So how does that translate for any promotional stuff that you want to do for your company? Do you have any platform in mind that you know that you want to advertise there, or you want your presentations to run through a specific one or anything like that?
Yeah.
Leaning.
So when it comes to social media, I've never been great at. I've never developed that until now. I'll just hear and there show stuff. The only the only one that I'm just like, I know I need to embrace it, to share it, the story. Very lately, what I've learned is like how to sell this product. So I've been trying to sell it to different types of people for a while, and one of the things I noticed, the product, when you taste it, it's cool. I actually purposely, like my espresso, the cocoa espresso, I purposely designed and created them that you're not going to want to eat more than 2 or 3 of them.
Right.
Because it's not a candy to eat, it's an experience to sit with. It's super bitter at first, and then chalky melts and becomes sweet and smooth. And I tell them that's the encouragement factor. Life is bitter and chalky. Hold on, things will sweeten up and smooth it out. the way people eat it again is if they know the story of what the thing is. So for me, I realized, like today, I was with the coffee, a gentleman who's a roaster at a coffee shop, and I just shared the story with him, and he's like, "Wow, I like that. That makes sense. You can go share it with X, Y, Z. You should also contact this and this company." And I'm like, "Huh? The story sells the product." So I'm like, "Well, in my mind, I'm not thinking how do I spread it fast and wide as fast as possible." Because in ninth grade, I had a business it was a landscaping business that grew fast and collapsed in its own way, and I shut it down. So I'm like, I want to take it slow. And so since I do want to start doing speaking or speaking on encouragement, it's like, where can I reach out to organizations or schools where they don't pay for me, the speaker, but they buy the product. So each listener, as I'm talking about the product in its story, they experience the product itself. So that by the time I leave, every time they try the espresso melts, they are reminded of it. So for me, it's like I won't use social media probably as much in the beginning because I don't want to go too fast, although I need to start developing that skill. I'm more going to go to reaching out to organizations that hire speakers or talk to like ideas like, maybe this product maybe it won't go to sell to, like if you sell items like a house and you leave them this as a gift, or somebody bought a car and you leave them this as a gift, or give it as a gift. So it's more of a gift of encouragement after a big sale has been done. So it's like,
right.
maybe
Changing your business card, right?
I'll say that again.
That it could even be something that goes with a business card.
Yes, it's like an encouraging message and a product. And so it's like I do know I need to take it slowly because I physically can only make right now at this day and age only so many espresso melts a night. Once I get back to here, so it's like I do have to like learn to balance all that. So when it comes to social media and like out there, I know I'll need to get there. I don't think social media is going to be selling because it's the storytelling that sells the product. So I have to get in front of people to share. And then I will use when I get back, I'm planning to use Clubhouse as my source of slowly starting to spread the message. I'm connected with a bunch of people on there, and once I get back the next 200 days, every day I'm going to do 3 1-hour shows to start just getting it out there, letting people know like, hey, I'm looking to do these speaking engagements, and let me give you an experience of these encouraging letters. Because like my packs, they come in, I'm like in a tube like this, and when you open it, you got your espresso melts right here, and then you got your letter of encouragement right there, kind of thing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it's like a nice gold thing on the front. But that's like, this is the product that people buy to give to each other. I'm going to be focusing not so much on the social world, as much as the physical world. Does that answer your question?
It does enough.
Yeah, because I was trying to answer as good as possible.
Yeah. No, I was just interested in a lot of people have very strong opinions right now about which platform to use, either for marketing purposes or for themselves, also for security, what is the best. So I just wanted to know if you had a strong opinion on that, and especially in regards to your entrepreneurship, because that's something that comes up a lot these days. So I just wanted to see where you stand.
I don't know which platform was. The mission is to figure out how to get the encouragement out into people's hands so that they can share it with each other.
Right. And the energy together one way or the other, right? That's what it's all about.
So whatever method is going to be best, I will figure out how to use it, and I'll use it within the best context that I can without getting too wacky. Whatever wacky means.
Talking about wacky, and talking about the future, and on this encouraging note, where do you stand on AI these days? Because we've you, and you started developing developing a bit of a relationship with ChatGPT. So tell us a little bit about your experience. Where do you see yourself at your,
ChatGPT.
that matter? Just a simple
What?
question there.
So when you first shared GPT with me, I heard so many people talking about it, and when you guys talked about it with me, I'm like, okay, I got to go try it. So I signed up for it, and let's just say at work, what should take 2-3 hours to do takes 5-10 minutes now. Because my job is a lot of times to create these certificates, which you have to do all this research and blah blah blah. And like one day, my office manager's like, "Hey, here's 3 certificates or 4 certificates. Please get them done." She left expecting me to do it in 4 hours. About 15 minutes later, I'm like, done. I was like, how do I BS my way forward? Did I know? When she came back half an hour later, I was like, I sent them to you. And she's like, what? I'm like, I gotta learn better to BS my way. But I'm like, no, that's just not who I am. So I told her, I'm like, hey, just so you know, this was done by computer. And I'm like, it's pretty good. She's like, oh, cut it in half. So I go back, I'm like, cut by 50%.
Oh no.
5 minutes later, I sent her version 2.0. She's like, and I'm like, well, I got 4 hours of work to figure out what to do. And she's like, I see her. She's like starting to get drained because she's having to tell me what to do. Like, she doesn't know what to do. So I tell her, I'm like, hey, you know my phone number? I'm going to go bug my friends in this other office because their office manager is gone and their representative is gone for the day.
Right.
So it's like, by now it's like 1 or 2 o'clock. I go to the other office and I just sit on the couch and I'm like, well, thanks to ChatGPT, I got nothing left for the rest of the day. for the all eternity of all my predecessors, it would take that long. So she never texts me. I come back at 5 o'clock because that's when my work day ends. And she's like, yeah, see you tomorrow. And I'm like, see you tomorrow. Sit there, do silly stuff like write a funny breakup story. And then it writes a funny breakup story. I'm like, include squirrel running into the house. And then we just create funny stories. It's like 2 hours later. I get bored of reading funny stories about breakups.
Interesting topic.
Yes.
To.
Yes. Like with business stuff, I was asking if you had to write a story like this, if you had to do marketing, what would you do? It's like it's giving back similar answers. It's like, okay. So for me, it's like I'm working on the few things that need to be first worked out before I really get to the marketing end of it. So yeah, I think it's a good. I'm looking forward to one that's specialized ChatGPT tax. So you never have to be worried about taxes again. And I'm excited to see how many. Hold on a second, my battery's dying. And okay, we're good. I'm excited to see how a lot of, I guess, blue-collar jobs are about to go under because of GPT. Like a year ago, if somebody told you this thing is going to be real soon, it would be like, no way, we've got another decade, maybe 20 years, and here we are where it's becoming so good, lawmakers are like, crap, we got to do something about this. Because it's getting too good too fast.
I mean, not necessarily even lawmakers. It feels like a lot of the push at the moment, at least on the big stage, is actually coming from corporations that are developing AI in many cases, who are calling for some sort of guidance, some sort of oversight, something, So it's interesting that normally don't really come from the government. They come from what people are doing or companies are doing in real life examples. And like in this case, it's very drastic how it's actually people at this company that are pushing for some sort of regulation around AI rather than
in a nutshell, I would say it's like humanity's the kid and GPT is the knife. Handing a kid a knife is recipe for disaster if they're not taught how to use it.
Mm. Yes.
So it's like I used to have to babysit my nephews and nieces. There'd be three things that I would do once the parents would leave. I'll take a knife, a toothpick, and I'd put the stove. And so, like, if just when they started, especially when they're walking, when they first started walking, I'd let them touch I'd take the knife and I'd have them touch the tippy of it. Same thing with the toothpick. And I'd show the oven that's cool and the one that's on so they could feel the heat. Never had a problem. So I've never had any of my nephews and nieces get hurt because of any of those three things, because those were the biggest dangers.
Right.
So I think that's what we kind of have to figure that out really quickly.
Yeah, we're kind of
too hot. Yep, because with the way things are going, tax accountants, lawyers, art are like, you're like, this thing can create art within a year, if not less. You're going to be creating movies with this thing, which already is. I mean, sure, it's like kind of edges, but point is like a lot of the creative work is just going to go to this GPT stuff.
Right. And recently there have been a couple of shows, I believe they were on Netflix, where shows have become interactive. So in terms of the show asks you what should happen next. And so you click an option, what you want the character to do. Both have been filmed and processed. And dependent on what you choose in that scene is how the next scene will play. And if you end up in a dead end, you can go back your decision tree. You can go back the scenes to a point where you can make a different decision and then see how that goes. So with that, like, something that maybe in traditional media would be, let's say, a 45-minute, maybe 1 hour show or movie, has become a multi-hour interactive experience where you are so engaged because you're playing at the same time as you're consuming the video content, and you're interacting now with your show. Was one of the ones that had the interactive show. That was incredible.
The only thing that worries me about GPT and its rapid ascension is guys need to have purpose and a reason. We already see this as a big problem, that for younger guys trying to find what to commit to, what to do is becoming more and more challenging, and it affects guys very, very seriously when they have something to strive towards. And so depression and just being stupid just becomes the norm, and like civil unrest becomes a thing very rapidly. That is the thing that I'm worried about, is because a lot of these jobs all of a sudden just poof, gone. Once Tesla comes out with their robo taxis and truck driving, I'm like, from that angle, I'm worried for the health of the city. So much is going to disappear so fast, and like we have to figure out how to. It's a new world. It's a world that has never existed, that we have to figure out. Pretty sure birth rates are going to plummet even more to where they're already saying that we're never going to reach 9 million people. It's already starting to, like, it's not going to go there. They were a decade ago guesstimating 12 billion will be the most. But with the advent of this technology, I mean, for hell, it's Tesla creating their robots. How fast within a year they have gotten. Give it another year, they're be at freaking human capacity better physically.
So we had a little bit of a technical hiccup in our end of the podcast, really, and the hiccup was that I live off grid on the island of Hawaii, and that means that if my solar power runs out, what I have generated for the day, then all of my systems go down in my home. And so I have to restart them with a generator. And the generator will power my solar battery, which then powers my house, which then powers my internet, which allows me to do this. So there was a lot of preparation involved in making sure that that doesn't happen. But it is our first podcast, just to give a good excuse, and it did happen. And so where we left off was we were talking about technology. We were talking about dropping birth rate. And so do you want to pick it up from there and kind of say where do you stand in all of it? How did you want to finish that thought?
I think where I was going with that thought is because it was also within the context of GPT and what it's going on. I think,
Right.
to the doomsdayer side of me would say that in conjunction with guys just more and more losing purpose, drive towards something, plus GPT and things like the auto taxis and robots becoming more human-like in their capacities and abilities, not just like your Boston Dynamic robot dogs, but human human robots. There's gonna be less and less creative work, and already we're talking about how there's tax accountants and all smart people. They're going out. That's it. You know, small business owners are using GPT because it can remember the previous thing. So it's like the thing is, it's like the less there are guys who have any hope for the future, the less they're gonna get into any kind of family, a desire to having family. Because as a guy, if you can't even provide for yourself, you don't have any kind of stable brain for what you're doing with what you're going towards. It's like nothing else is gonna happen. It's like with birth rates going down, I think in the near future they're only gonna they're just gonna almost exponentially go. Aside from third world countries, the last is I heard was Africa is the only one that's growing in population. All the other countries, that first world countries, they're just going down. I think
Right.
just Africa that's the last place.
And you're talking very specific about the guy's perspective and maybe a little bit of mission and purpose in there. And I could respond from the girl side that it's a catch-22, right? Because from a feminine side, we are looking for a provider. If it's an emotional provider or financial provider, it doesn't matter in the end of the day what that provider definition for the feminine part is. But you are looking for some form of a provider in order for you to get lost in a safe way in this feminine chaos, which is I see it like a matrix in my head that when guys seem to focus more on how to get from point A to point B, how do I make that connection between 2 points, and how do I make it in the fastest, most efficient way. Then for the feminine side of it, I feel like we need the freedom to open that way up as a matrix, as a cube, that we can find all these different connections and then present them to our quoting provider. If it's like I said, if it's in type of a 3D way, or if it's in just the emotional way of this is my emotional. And so it's hard for the girls of today to see the men of today as men, because there seems to be a very boyish kind of popularity leaning attractiveness in our mainstream media at the moment. Our mainstream media doesn't seem to be promoting what would traditionally qualify as like real men, you know. And so it's 22 of, in order for women to create and provide these options for the masculine brain to be able to take them on as a marathon. we're lacking some connection, right? That should come from maybe our spiritual connections or our soul connections. But Yeah, something is disconnecting, and I think that's a lot of why of this podcast also. Um, why to speak of these voices that are finding themselves in this lost mess, that maybe you have a very clear direction of how to go forward on your path, but is it in all directions of your life? Like, what would be, if you could get to choose right now, dear Genie, have, let's say, not three wishes, but you have one wish. Like, what is the wish that you would go for right now to improve your life in your 30s?
Business to be very, very live and growing.
Why the business?
Because with the stability, with financial stability, so that's financially stable for me, then I can actually focus on building a family and being able to provide for a family. Without capacity to provide, you're running around with like a chicken without your head, a chicken without a head. There is no direction. There's a lot of action, but there's nothing going on. You're not going anywhere. Yesterday, I was talking with a female friend, and I just told her straight up, there's like no purpose. It's very difficult to want to get into a relationship.
Sort of. You're
Um,
okay. That seems okay. Now, you're getting and some feedback.
okay, how about now? Is this better?
Yeah, this seems good.
Okay, my earphones just died on me. What was I saying? So yeah, it's like I can't even think about like when a guy starts making money, his biggest focus on the average is how do I create a family, get into a relationship with a family. The goal is to build a family. So I can't really even think about that if I can't even provide for myself. So the answer is I'm able to, if I had a genie come out and say, well, what are you doing? What do you want? Let's say the 200,000 pounds of coffee every year gets sold for how much exactly that I want to sell for. It's being sold off. It's being pre-bought, like pre-sold every year. Then I could turn around with actual focus and energy and focus on creating a family. Relationship is just one piece of it. Like all like going out on a freaking date is not cheap. Like
No.
feeding yourself is not cheap. Feeding you and somebody else is not cheap. Feeding you somebody else that now is reliant on you and create a bigger house because you have kids now. It's like none of that comes cheap. So it's like, yeah, that's why I would do that. And it's not for the sake. I know people are, oh, you're thinking about money. Yes, that's what guys have to think through is provision. And in this world, in this realm, it is financial provision to get everything you need. So it would definitely be that all 200,000 pounds of coffee is sold for the price point that I want.
I get it. I get it. And do you feel like I mean, obviously, ultimately, that's what you personally want, right? You're looking forward to having children one day, and you're looking forward to having a family one day. Um, that is quite clear from where you stand. Do you feel that when you have friends that are in the bearing age group, do you think that's where most of your friends are at? Because I can tell you about from my friend circle, I think it doesn't even matter which country or which continent even. I have friends all over the world. It doesn't matter who I'm speaking to in my age group. People are in stages of, if they don't have children, majority want them, but don't know how to make it happen. And two reasons why they don't know how to happen is either they can't figure out the relationships, or they can't figure out the money to support the family that they actually want to create, right? And on the other side, and there's some people that say, no, I don't want the family at all. But that seems to be the minority in my group. And then there's the other of people that are in the same age group that have already had their first child or couple, and that are struggling with kind of existential questions of how do I continue providing children that I now have? How do I continue educating the children that I now have? Was this a great decision? Did I have the right amount of children? All of this, and this, like, I'm not thinking I'm questioning at all anybody's love as a parent for their child, or their love for the child that hasn't yet come to be. I'm not questioning any of that. I'm questioning the reality in which we're trying to create this future. So come in there.
Yeah. So speaking with girls these days, or talking with girls with these days, the problem is what I'd like to call it feminosity, or what's that whole movement about woman power? I'm totally blanking on it right now.
Feminism movement.
Feminism. There we go.
Yeah.
Feminism. The modern day feminism is all about you don't want to be a wife, you don't want to be a kid, you want to get a job and work for a boss. That is the real thing. You can't go against biology of, regardless if you're a believer in a god or an evolution. The human body, this human system, has developed in a specific way. Its first core purpose is to reproduce. And so that's physiological. The big psychological thing is we need meaning and purpose. And the thing that gives us the greatest meaning and purpose is creating circles, aka family for the human being. Just like any other animal in the animal kingdom, it's all about creating your group of people. For us, it's family. It gives you the big short-term and long-term satisfaction in life. Like, I was talking to a girl yesterday, and this is exactly what I'm saying. But you girls generally speaking now, if you're a guy in a dating market, you're talking to girls who, like, I asked, do you want to have kids? You know what her response was?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you fucker. That's exactly what I said. You don't even want kids, and you like, what the hell? And we're sitting in a public place, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? And she's like, what do you mean? I didn't say I don't want kids. I'm like, your response is more than enough. Like, I told her, like, look, that sounds like I'm attacking you, but the reality is you bought into the fact that you just want freedom. And that's stupid, because short, mid, and long term, we're all striving to be connected. And the best way that the human evolution has figured out, be it, like I said, evolution or creation, they agree in this, that humans are about creating families. That's what gives satisfaction. If you don't have that, you're slowly psychologically done. Well, now the 30 crowd, males are just really both are getting their asses kicked in this sense, where this is the highest suicide rates ever in history for men. Women, most depression ever, because most childless after 30. Like, we could probably all, I know I'm laughing, this is a really bad thing, that I'm probably going to go to hell for this. But, like, no time in history have there been so many women, females, who have artificially impregnated themselves without a partner. I have a friend like that.
Yeah, I have many friends that have done that, yeah.
And you're like, there you go. Now wait till the dominoes comes down. That when the kids grow up without two parents household, like, that's gonna be a whole different society. I'm not saying they're right or wrong for. I'm just saying that's the system called, aka the body, has developed over however many years you believe we've been on Earth. You're trying to think the psychological. Everybody's like, it's like this psychological onslaught towards women since the 70s. You got to be a loner. You got to be by yourself. Go after that buck. Be a boss bitch. And now they're left with being no bosses. And I'll stop there.
I have a slightly different take on that. I feel that women necessarily made that choice in a vacuum, in a sense that, what I tried to get at earlier, women are looking for safety and stability. That's what the providing function brings. And if you can't find the safety or stability in the outside world, you're going to focus on the inside world because it feels like you have some form of control over that. And so if it's a forced focus, so your environment is forcing you to focus on specifically your needs, your wants, you wanting to have a baby, you wanting to be stable, then the ultimate conclusion in the current system we have been living in has been that the woman has to go out and get a career because then she provides for herself and then she doesn't have to rely on that man that is probably going to cheat, do all these other things, which is completely out of context.
Well,
Really,
you know
not
what's really the big going on this subject is every week, a couple times a week. It's like it's weird because it happens a lot of times, not even within context. You constantly hear this phrase, women saying, "I don't need no man. I don't need no man." Like, have you ever heard of guys saying, "I don't need a woman. I don't need no man"? No, because men know men need men and men need women. Only women say, "I don't need no man," and that is, there you go, the result of society trying to turn into these movements, trying to go against the physiological truth, trying to force a psychological belief system. You know, again, it's neither right nor wrong, but here are the results of it.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear it from the guy's side, and I just want to add context from the girl's side that um, we see it on both sides, and I guess it takes maybe taking history a little bit further back to understand how it came to be, but it doesn't change the symptoms, right? It doesn't change who we have become today, and the only thing that changes who we have become today is making different decisions going forward. Like taking a little bit of history back, women being treated the way that they have been treated in all of the world. I'm not just talking Western world, but all of the world in where they have had to become survivors has created this situation. There's a lot of my mama told me to do it this way. My grandmother told me to do it this way. Like this is the way you survive. And so if you start digging back in people, especially women's cultural backgrounds, where did these women come from? In America, these women that are speaking up today, very often they came from countries that were worse off. That's why they ended up here in the first place, generationally, right? Coming here for opportunity, coming here for chances. And so this is all playing out in a society where there's way more opportunity, way more chances. However, the ground beliefs and the ground feelings and the ground needs are all still the same. So it's interesting, I guess what I'm trying to say, where we're venturing into. It's different challenges on women's and men's sides, but I think both are quite challenged at the moment.
Like when it comes to wanting to, guys on the when they start making money, their focus is let me create family. Female, I don't know if this has been the case before, but now, and I'm saying from the guy's perspective now, when girls start making, just like I don't need no man. I can support myself. I could go live my own life. I could go travel. So they value different things. They value creating family because modern society has said that that's a big that's a negative. Want to be that, and so guys when they start making money, they want to focus on families. Today in this day age, women start making money. They're like, I don't need no man. You're like, okay, have fun traveling the world, and then they find themselves feeling lonely and shittier. I was just talking to one of my coworkers. She's, I don't know how it came up, but she's like, yep, after 30s, girls ability for girls to get into relationships starts going down. That's just, and for guys it starts going up. You're like, and so it's like they're trying to find somebody at your own level. Now I'm 36. There's plenty of 35-year-olds, but most 35-year-olds I'm not going to consider. Like as they start making money, I'm not going to marry a 35-year-old who's been around the block way too many times and has no respect for anyone or anything. That's like, it's like, okay, you go, you have your life, I'll have my life. It's like, yeah, that can go a different route. Who I want to say about that, but it's just like, to having kids, you first have to find who even want to have kids. I have not met a single English-speaking girl or American girl that will say, yes, I want kids right away. There's always that, maybe not. It's like, okay, until they turn 35 and older. And then, oh shit, I want a family. And like, sorry, your biology is like, it's a little more dangerous, and that's just the reality. And we live in a psychological world now. We don't live in the world of reality anymore. You know what? Maybe that's why the birth rates are going down big time. And that's, guys still want families, but girls don't want families as much as they used to, or as they were before, for whatever reason. Maybe that's how, what is it called? That's how humanity is self-regulating itself to how many people can and can't live on planet Earth.
Maybe. Thank you so much, Alex, for bringing us all together and being really candid and honest about your point of view and your perspective of life and what you're experiencing. I really, really appreciate it. And we can agree to disagree on different topics, but I love hearing your voice, as it is, and as uncandid it is. You're discovering about your business and your surroundings, and as you're going through your adventures. So thank you so much for sharing that. This was officially our first podcast for a podcast we have not yet named.
The unicorn.
The unicorn.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's been fun.